so nice to be here. Thanks. I know so many people in this room. I can't acknowledge everybody. From Senator Coons and Senator Markey and Susan Blumenthal to my dear friends Jeff and Pamela, to the ambassador. I would be remiss if I did not point out that Congressman Ted Deutsch was my junior counselor at Camp Vermont in the Poconos. So he knows where the bodies are buried, so to speak, or literally. It's an honor to be here. Martin, thank you so much for the invitation. Chaim, thank you so much. Minister Lieberman, thank you so much. I assume you saw your brother, Senator Lieberman, out there as well. I'll just start with the questions, and we'll see what he answers.
First of all, I see you have too many questions.
I do have many questions. Let me just start off with the fact that President-elect Trump has named the man he wants to play your role, except in the United States, retired Marine General James Mattis. Do you know him? What do you think of him?
I didn't met him, and we don't have any real previous talks, but of course I know who's a general, and he was the commander of CENTCOM, and we know in Israel a lot about him, about his stance, and what we see in the press. It's, from my point of view, it's very positive.
Okay. Obviously, there are many things that the president-elect has said having to do with the state of Israel. One of the things he has said is, I believe he said on day one, he would want to move the capital to Jerusalem. Obviously, that is, I think it's fair to say, easier said than done. Do you think that he should do that on day one?
First of all, I think that, we see before in every elections the same promise to remove the embassy to Jerusalem. But I think that we will wait and we will see. And a year ago I was here, it was much easier. I was in opposition. Now as a minister I try to be politically correct. It's very difficult for me. And we will wait and we will see, but I think it was something publicly and strong public commitment, and we will wait.
I won't do too many follow-ups on this one, but just as a matter of whether or not the move itself would be perceived as incendiary and provocative, is it something that you think should happen, if it happens, immediately, or is it something that you think should maybe be done with a little bit more deliberation?
What it's really crucial for us to agree with new administration regarding all our common policy. Not only one point like American embassy. It's very important, but we have many other issues. It's Iran and Palestinian issue and settlements and Syria. We have enough challenges all around Israel. And I think that it will be mistake, to take the embassy as a focal point. I think that it's crucial to move forward with all agenda, and we have many items on our common agenda. And I think that maybe the embassy will be one of the points.
Let's talk about the other items that you listed, starting with the Iran deal. We're getting somewhat mixed messages about whether or not President-elect, when he becomes President Trump, will literally rip up the Iran deal, or whether there will be recalibrations. One senator suggested to me that all they need to do, all the new administration would need to do, is enforce the Iran deal, which would set new sanctions into place, since international monitors have said there have been violations. What would Israel like to see happen when it comes to the Iran deal?
You know, first of all, I will speak only about my personal position, and it's not a secret. My position was very, very clear against deal with Iran, but it really doesn't matter. What is real question? It's to understand what happened since 5+1 signed in a deal with Iranians. And what we saw the ballistic missiles in the center of Tehran with inscription in Hebrew to wipe off the state of Israel. We saw competition in Tehran for the best cartoon to deny the fact of Holocaust. We saw the last report of State Department, annual report regarding the terror in the world, and Iranians, according to this report, the biggest sponsor of terror all around the world. And we see Iranian penetration to Yemen, to Lebanon, to Syria, their activity in Iraq, and they are trying to undermine the stability in all the Middle East. And I think it's very important to understand what happens with Iran after the deal. And my conclusion, it's also very, very clear, but it's my conclusion, and I think that negotiations, talks with the United States about our common position regarding Iran, it's only during the first meeting between Prime Minister and President-elect. We will see, and at least my position will be very clear. I think it's crucial to move forward with more sanctions, because it was clear violation of agreement, especially in the area missiles like not nuclear but ballistic missiles. The next step will be nuclear missiles, but at least up until now it's only ballistic missiles, and of course violation of human rights and their activity in Syria. They responsible, like Assad, for the massacre 500,000 people and the atrocities that we see every day. I think it's necessary to continue with sanctions and to be very, very tough on all issues.
So just to clarify, if I'm understanding you correctly, and tell me if I'm wrong, please, you believe, and you're not the only one, that Iran has violated the deal. So you just think that the United States just needs to go into the UN Security Council and get the trigger to enforce more sanctions on Iran because they have already violated the deal, not that the deal should just be torn up. Is that a fair characterization?
Look, what happens in the world today, it's very, very problematic picture, because not only Iranians, all crazy guys, all radical guys, they understand that there is no payment for violation of commitments, of violation of all acceptable norms. Forget for a moment from Middle East. Look what happens with North Korea. One crazy guy took his own population as a hostages, clear violation of all resolutions, Security Council commitments, negotiations between 5+ North Korea, United States, North Korea, nuclear bombs, missiles, etc., etc. And I don't see any ability or any readiness or political will to stop this crazy guy. And the same with Iranians. They must pay for every violation of their commitments. And what happens, at least with ballistic missiles, it's clear violation of their commitments according to the agreements that they signed.
Let's turn to Syria. Right now, you referred to Bashar al-Assad and the massacre he's been committing against his own people. We just learned, I think from a Syrian human rights group today, that 600 more were killed in Aleppo. And I'm wondering what you think the role of the United States in the Trump administration should be when it comes to Syria, because my impression is that President-elect Trump would like to basically wash his hands of Syria and let Putin and Assad do whatever they think is necessary and just have the United States focus on ISIS. Is that a position that you think would be the right one? Is that a position you think would be good for the state of Israel?
Again, it's not only Israel.
It's the region.
We should know that today we are living in the real small global village, and everything is as connected vessels. And it's much better to see all the picture. And the picture in the Middle East, in the broad Middle East, that we have every day at least 500 people slaughtered, killed, hundreds of people injured, and we don't see again any readiness to stop this bloodshed. If I take all the Middle East from South Sudan until Iraq, Libya, South Sudan, Libya, Yemen, Syria, Iraq, you have every day at least 500 people killed and slaughtered. And what's the response from international community? And to speak only about ISIS, not ISIS, all of them the same. Muslim Brotherhoods and Al-Qaeda and ISIS, at the end of the day, it's the same. And I think that our challenge to stop these radical people, it doesn't matter what's their name, but this violence, this bloodshed, it's something in 21st century. I think it's clear that it's completely unacceptable for all normal people. I don't see any differences between Hamas, Hezbollah or Islamic State, and only to speak about the Daesh, it's not right. What's the differences between Hezbollah, Hamas, and Islamic State? It's the same.
Would you put Assad in that group?
Assad, it's if, today like an advisor, what is crucial for any deal in Syria, from my point of view. I'm not sure that it's possible, but two preconditions: Assad out of Syria and Iranians out of Syria. It's impossible to accept the fact that the guy who is responsible for killing of 500,000 people, 8 million people displaced, and first time maybe since the First World War, the head of state that used chemical weapons against his own people, and he will continue to be acceptable player in international arena. And the same Iranians, I think their penetration and their efforts to undermine the stability of every country, of all this region, we must put Assad in his place, and the Iranians in his place.
And who leads that effort?
No doubt, from our point of view, United States, it's biggest power in the world, and it's their responsibility. The time for splendid isolation, it was maybe 100 years ago, more than a century, but today it's united world. It's impossible to speak about isolation. I think it's clear, and especially President-elect, he speaks about the military power and strong army and powerful United States, and I think the biggest challenge, even here in United States, it's Daesh, ISIS also. We saw ISIS that they are trying every day to issue some terrorist act to recruit more supporters here in the United States. And Daesh and all radical Islamic operatives, they are coming from Middle East. If you really want to confront this phenomenon, you must start from the Middle East.
I know you're a minister now, so you have to be more diplomatic, but you do recognize that the president-elect has talked about withdrawing more from the Middle East than even whatever status you think the United States has there right now.
You know, I don't know if he spoke withdrawing from Saudi Arabia or from the Gulf, but we hope that regarding Syria, he will be active and regarding the solutions. And to speak frankly, it's impossible to achieve any solution without American active participation in this process. We need strong America. We need America active in, at least in our region. And I hope that we will really achieve some, we will agree about the common vision regarding future of the Middle East.
Let's talk about the Israeli-Palestinian peace process going forward. President.
Not peace and not process.
The future Israeli-Palestinian peace process.
Okay.
President-elect Trump has said that perhaps Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, can be put in charge of that peace process. Have you met Jared Kushner?
No.
What do you think of the idea of Jared Kushner being put in charge of the peace process?
What we know, he really smart, tough guy, and I hope that he will bring a new energy to our region. But maybe you forgot, day before yesterday, the Fatah convention in Ramallah, the Mahmoud Abbas gave last his public speech. And what he said, it was very clear. He will never give up the idea of refugees. And of course, he will never recognize the right of Israel as to exist as a Jewish state. With those two preconditions, we really don't have nothing to discuss with the Palestinians. The right of return for the Palestinian refugees, it's end of the Zionist idea of the Zionist state, and fact that he insisted that he will never recognize Israel as a Jewish nation state. What exactly will be the issue to discuss? I think it's clear that the same. He doesn't have any authority represent Palestinian people. The elections, the presidential elections in Palestinian Authority were supposed to be held in January 2010. He doesn't have any control on Gaza Strip, and even the municipal elections, the last October, he postponed for many years, I understand. And I think, to achieve real strategic breakthrough, to achieve comprehensive, reasonable solution between us and Palestinians, we need somebody very strong that has support from his own people, very popular, and somebody who is a real leader and ready, to sacrifice something for peace. And I don't see Mahmoud Abbas that he's a real partner to achieve final status agreement. And to speak frankly, what we need today is interim agreement for some years to rebuild a trust between two sides and to wait for real opportunity. You know, Israel we proved our desire to achieve real peace many times. We signed peace agreement with Egypt, and we gave up Sinai territory 6 times more than all Israel today. We signed a peace agreement with Jordan. We withdrew from Gaza Strip until the very last inch according to the 67 line. We gave up half of Judea and Samaria to Palestinians, and we evacuated 21 flourishing settlements from Gaza Strip and transferred 10,000 Jews. And I think that we proved our desire to achieve a real, peaceful and reasonable solution. But for this kind of solution, you need, as I mentioned, a real strong partner, and I don't see today on Palestinian side this kind of leaders.
One of the things that's interesting about any potential peace process, obviously, other Arab states would likely have to be involved, and many of these Arab states don't even acknowledge, let alone your right to exist, they don't even acknowledge that they've ever had conversations with people like you. Have you ever talked with any members of the Saudi royal family about a peace process?
I don't remember, but we have many contacts with our neighbors in the region. Very clear question.
This is normally when I would be very aggressive, but it's a different setting here, so not to mention Shabbos. So on the subject of the peace process, this gets into the weeds a little bit, but I believe it's on Monday, the Knesset is going to have its first vote on whether or not some settlements are going to be made legal. You have proposed, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, a sort of freeze that would give any sort of peace process an opportunity to move forward. Is that, am I describing that inaccurately?
No.
How would you describe it?
My proposal is to wait for the new administration and to create, together with new administration, a common policy. Not, without any surprise, and not to create some facts, but to wait and to discuss with the next administration our policy and our visions. And I think it makes sense because, the reasons that we freeze and de facto, our construction activity in Judea and Samaria, in Jerusalem, it's really, I'm personally not satisfied. And the main reason it's not because we really don't want to build new homes in Judea and Samaria or in Jerusalem, because we had disagreements with American administration, and I think it's clear for us, for me at least, that key to the future of the settlements, it's understandings with United States, not only our desire. We're not in a vacuum. And I think the last 8 years, it was a huge problem. It was one of the main points of disagreements between us and the current administration.
The current administration, the outgoing administration, would often feel as though there would be settlements announced at inopportune times, right before Vice President Biden were to arrive in Israel, that sort of thing, that it was almost done in their face. Is that an unfair characterization by the Obama administration?
I think that there are many prejudiced views regarding the settlements, and I would like to underline that the settlements, they are not obstacle to peace. As I mentioned, we signed 2 peace agreements despite the settlements. And even when Israel evacuated after our withdrawing from Gaza Strip 21 settlements, the response from the Palestinian side was missiles on southern Israel and even on Tel Aviv. And I think it's really a very biased approach, and to say that the settlements, they are a problem, it's really wrong approach. And again, all settlements together, they less than 1.5% of all territory of Judea and Samaria. If I take total, all settlements together, includes towns like Malay, Dumim, in Ariel, it's less than 1.5% of all territory of Judea and Samaria. And maybe another point, I remember the Annapolis meeting between Tzipi Livni, I think in Tzipi here, and Ehud Olmert, Abu Mazen, Mahmoud Abbas, and Condi Rice in Annapolis. And it's impossible to offer more than Ehud Olmert offered in Annapolis. When I saw in our press the proposals, I was shocked. And we will never have any other prime minister that will offer more. And everything was ready for huge ceremony in the White House. At the last moment, Mahmoud Abbas refused to sign an agreement. It's also the fact. And Olmert was ready to evacuate all settlements and to open the issue of a law of return and swaps and everything. And it's another maybe illustration what's the real problem of solution between us and Palestinians.
Just to put a period on this topic, do you think the vote on Monday to legalize some of these settlements should be postponed until after the United States and Israel get together and are on the same page?
I clarified my position in cabinet, publicly, in press, and I think it's much better to postpone all this legislation and steps until 22 of January.
Anti-Semitism reared its head quite a bit during the presidential election in a way that I think probably a lot of Americans under a certain age had not seen perhaps ever in their lifetimes. How much notice did that get in Israel? The rise of the so-called alt-right, a lot of whom are anti-Semites, white supremacists, etc. A lot, and almost who unanimously supported the president-elect, which is not to say that his supporters are that way, but certainly a minority were. Did that get attention in Israel? Did you hear about this? Did you have any concerns?
We have concerns regarding all kinds of anti-Semitism. It doesn't matter if it comes from the left, from the right, or from the radical Islamic groups, because what we saw, especially on European soil, it's not only slogans, it's not only accusations. We saw the attacks on the Jewish school in Toulouse, on Jewish museum in Brussels, on Hyper Kasher supermarket in Paris, and with victims, with bloodshed, and anti-Semitism is still very strong. It's not part of our history. It's part of every day of our existence. And we see as hypocrisy, especially in international community. If I take, for example, the last resolution of UNESCO that It's maybe world record in the hypocrisy that the Jewish people, they don't have any links to the Western Wall. It's something really crazy, and it's clear anti-Semitism, nothing new. And another issue, if we mentioned UNESCO, one of the problem of international community that an international institute that they more and more irrelevant, incapable to resolve any problem. Middle East, North Korea, Africa, Boko Haram, nothing. I didn't remember any example of some successful solution that comes as initiative of a Security Council, for example. Or another very respectable, not from my point of view, institution like Human Rights Council in Geneva, 70% of all resolutions against Israel, not against Iran, not against Zimbabwe, not against North Korea, but against Israel, 70% of all resolutions. And I think it's a weakness of all the international community of the Western world. We speak a lot about the human values and democratic values, but when it comes to the profits, everybody prefers his profits, not values. It's maybe biggest problem.
There's a race going on right now for head of the Democratic National Committee. Congressman Keith Ellison, a Democrat from Minnesota, is running for that position. The Anti-Defamation League recently issued a statement saying that comments that Congressman Ellison made about Israel and about a population of, I'm paraphrasing here, but a small population controlling policy in that region compared to a much larger Arab population didn't make much sense. Again, it's a sloppy paraphrase, but it was enough for the Anti-Defamation League to say that the comments were disqualifying. Are you aware of this? Do you have any take on it?
No, I'm not aware, but if it's true, I think it's really unnecessary statements, and especially with the United States and our expectations from our biggest friend, the United States, for really friendly atmosphere in our bilateral relations and discussions on all levels, include, of course, Senate, Congress, Israeli Knesset, and I hope that it, some kind of a mistake.
Lastly, what do you think is the most serious problem, the most serious threat facing the state of Israel, the one that should be on the top of the agenda? Is it Iran, without question?
No question, it's Iran, because it's not only Iran, it's Iran through their proxies. You should know that annual budget from Iran to Hezbollah, it's about $900 million the last year, and the same without their financial support, Hamas, Jihad Islami, Hezbollah, without their technology, without their political support, all those they will not able to exist. And Iranians very active against Israel and the Jewish institutes, Jewish people, not only in the Middle East, but in Africa and in South America. We see what happens even in the last months regarding Iranian participation and involvement in Buenos Aires against our embassy in the Jewish Community Center, and we have every day, we are handling every day with their provocations and their aggressions against Israel and Jewish people.
One last question I want to ask before I let you go, and that has to do with the relationship between the American Jewish community and the Israeli community. למדתי באוניברסיטת Tel Aviv. I studied at University of Tel Aviv. That's about all I remember. And I had a roommate named Baruch, like you. He was a Soviet immigrant, and he was a tough guy. He fought with Golani, and his attitude towards me, I thought, kind of like summed up some of the tensions between the American Jewish community and the Israeli Jewish community, which was he thought that all of us exchange students from the United States were soft, and he wasn't wrong. But he also thought that we should just shut up about our opinions about Israeli policy. The United States can give money or don't give money, but you're not living here, so be quiet. And there does seem to be a point in American and Israeli relations right now, American Jewish and Israeli relations, about whether or not the American Jewish community, especially younger American Jews, are concerned about the direction of the Israeli politicians, whether the country is lurching too much to the right in American, in English parlance. And I'm wondering what you make of it, what you think of it. Is your attitude like Baruch? Or does there need to be a greater effort of understanding between especially younger American Jews and Israelis?
First of all, the State of Israel was established as a state for all Jewish people all around the world. And from my point of view, of course, we're really responsible not only for our citizens, but for our diaspora also. And I think that we failed with, especially with Jewish and Zionist education in United States and in Russia and in France and all around the world, because the problem, it's not right, left. The problem that only 5% of Jewish kids in the United States, they really have Jewish and Zionist education. Exclude Orthodox communities that they have Jewish but not Zionist education. It's the biggest problem. I think today it's our turn to allocate money for the Jewish education, Jewish Zionist education, first of all in the United States, because what we have, people really more and more disconnected to the Jewish values. They don't know Jewish history, and it's a huge problem. But it's not their problem; it's our problem. We failed, and I completely agree that dialogue, especially with the young Jewish generation, it's crucial. It's not important. It's crucial for our future. And at least me and my friends, we try to discuss with all Jewish communities around the world, and they must be part of this discussion of the future of the Jewish nation.
And we're going to open the floor to questions, is that right? Is there a microphone?
Mr. Minister, you mentioned that you see Iran being the biggest problem in the region, and obviously not just towards Israel, but actually towards the rest of most of the Sunni Arab world as well. You also have maintained, I think, over the years, a relationship with Vladimir Putin, and yet if today you look at the Russian position towards Iran, really no one else is doing as much to abet Iranian power, certainly in Syria, and I would say that has implications for the region. Given your long-standing relationship with Putin, do you see any potential to separate Putin from the Iranians? And if so, how would you go about doing that?
Well, look, we have many issues and many items with Russians, and we have many disagreements. We have many contacts with China, and we have many disagreements with China. I don't think it's the right approach to disregard Russia or China. We, at the end of the day, we're a small country. We have the same, our priorities, our relations. And of course, Putin, he is still not a Zionist guy. He thinks about Russia and the Russian interests. But the fact that we have a clear dialogue, we have some coordination, including Syria, I think it's very, very helpful. What can be, it's only dialogue between United States and Russia. Putin looks not for some deal with Israel. He looks with deal with United States regarding the sanctions in Ukraine and Syria and many other issues. It's two world powers that they have interests all around the world. I don't have any illusions. With all due respect to Israel and to myself, we understand that we're not able to resolve all problems of Russia, not in the world and not even in the Middle East. And the final agreement or final solution, it's possible to achieve only between Russia and United States, include their stance on Iran, on Syria, and many other issues.
Minister Lieberman, thank you very much for joining us again this evening. One new development that I'm sure you're well aware of is the way in which Israel's strategic interests these days tend to coincide with those of your Arab neighbors, Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, the Emirates in particular. And I wonder, given your exposure to that in your position as defense minister, whether you think that they can play a useful role when it comes to trying to help you resolve the conflict, your conflict with the Palestinians. They call themselves the Arab Quartet, recently intervened in an effort to try to promote a succession process amongst the Palestinians, which is something that you've been talking about tonight. So I just wonder, what role do you see them playing, if any, in trying to help you resolve that conflict?
Thank you. As me, that the Arab world really regarding Palestinian issue, they only pay the lip service. It's really not their concern and not in their priorities. Because if Arab world, huge territory, 100 millions people, if they really ready to resolve Palestinian issue, it's something that it's possible for many, many years. And again, it's, what happened between 48 and 67. During 19 years, Arab world controlled all territory of Judea, Samaria, under Jordanian sovereignty, and Gaza Strip under Egyptian sovereignty. I didn't remember that somebody tried to resolve Palestinian issue during 19 years. Today we speak about 67 line, etc., etc. But problem, it's not history. Problem's the reality of today. And to resolve Palestinian issue, from my point of view, it's possible only as a part of large or reasonable regional comprehensive solution. When the Palestinian issue only one point, because today it's clear for the Arab world that the biggest threat for them, it's not Zionism, it's not Israel, it's not Jews, but it's Iranians and Daesh and Hezbollah and Hamas and the others. I think that they understand, but still They don't have political will. They don't have enough power to move forward with this approach. And from my point of view, it doesn't make sense to sign an agreement with Palestinians without agreement with all moderate Arab world. It must be something simultaneously, one final status agreement with all Arab world, not only with Palestinians. We're not able to impose on Palestinians some kind of solution, and bilateral efforts, I don't think that they bring some better future. And even United States, what we saw also, you don't have enough power and ability to impose on Palestinians. But if all moderate Arab world, if all of them come together, Egypt and Saudi Arabia and Jordan and Gulf countries, they're able to bring them to the table and to impose on them the solution. But the problem is that there is a huge gap, the disparity between understanding among the leadership and what happens among the people, among the crowds. And it's clear that it's a timing even for the Arab world, for their leadership, to start with, with public opinion, to explain their positions, to move forward, not only in the closed meetings, not only in Washington, but in the Arab world, in Arabic, to explain what the real threats and what the real opportunities. Because cooperation between us and the moderate Arab world, it's really a huge, huge strategic breakthrough for entire world. Together, I believe that we're able to resolve all problems with all problems in the Middle East, with terror, even with Iranians. The combination of our high tech, our ICT, our technology, and their financial capabilities, it's something new. But my position, it's enough with closed talks. It's a timing, it's opportunity for open talks, not only in the closed rooms. And I would like to see our embassy in Qatar, in Abu Dhabi, in Saudi Arabia, in Kuwait, and their embassies in Tel Aviv, and direct flights. And for me, it's a real peace, not only an agreement. The problem between Israel and the Arab world, when we talk with them, it's all Israel, a state of Israel, and from their part, it's only the leadership. It's not with the state, not with the people, it's only with their leadership, and it's not enough.
I see a woman back there, if we could get the microphone to her.
I would like to ask about the Arab Initiative for Peace that was submitted by Saudi Arabia in 2002. Is it a good time to revisit this initiative? I would like also to ask about the relation with Egypt. Is there any cooperation between Israel and Egypt regarding fighting all Islamic groups and terrorists in Sinai? And last question regarding two islands that there was some discussion between Saudi Arabia and Egypt regarding Sanafir and Tiran and Sanafir Island. Can you elaborate a little bit about this discussion, because it was not only between Egypt and Saudi Arabia, but US and Israel was involved in this discussion. what's the logistics about these two islands? Is it secured, or what's the what's
Thank
what
you,
was
I understand.
Thank you.
I will start with the first issue, Saudi Arabia initiative. There are some points that they're very positive, and we can discuss, and it's possible to take them for the negotiations. There are some other points like right of return that it's completely impossible. But when we talk, we will come without any restrictions, without any preconditions. And my expectations, if we will start negotiations, that the other side also, they will come without preconditions. Regarding our relations with Egypt, we have normal relations. We have embassy in Cairo, they have embassy in Tel Aviv, and we have talks, contacts, and I think it's normal relations as between two normal states. Regarding their relations with Saudi Arabia, it's not our business. Of course, we are monitoring everything what happens in our region, but it's bilateral talks, bilateral deal between Saudi Arabia and Egypt, and I don't think that our opinion or our public statements will be so necessary in, regarding this issue.
I think I speak for everyone when I say, I'm sorry, that's all the time we have. I think I speak for everyone when I say thank you so much.
Thank you.